Story 1. In 2016, Maya Elif Chung was a young British backpacker from the city of Wirksworth, Derbyshire, in the UK. Known for her vibrant personality, Mia was described by friends and family as outgoing, friendly, and full of life. She had a passion for travel and adventure, which is what ultimately led her to embark on a round-the-world backpacking journey of a lifetime. In August of that year, Mia had just spent almost an entire year living in Australia on a working holiday visa, and she wanted to extend her blissful experience in Oz. And in order to renew her visa for another year, the Australian government required travelers like her to do farm work for 88 days. This is what would inevitably bring her to the fateful hostel in the sleepy town of Home Hill, Queensland. This rural riverside town, not 5 miles from the Pacific Ocean, usually peaceful and an attraction for backpackers seeking farm work, soon became the scene of unimaginable tragedy. For the uninitiated, hostels are cheap accommodations typically frequented by young and often international travelers. They can be affordable because they often require travelers to sleep in bunk beds in large shared dorm rooms with other travelers. Just days after arriving at her hostel in Home Hill, Mia phoned her mother back home, terrified of her sleeping arrangement. She had been placed in the dorm with 2 men, one of them by the name of Shmail Sayed, a French national with pronounced mental health issues. During her time at the hostel, Shmail had been staring at Mia, following her around town, invading her personal space, and declaring to others at the hostel that she would be his wife and that he wanted to sleep with her. On the night of August 23rd, Shmail, suffering a schizophrenic episode and high off of Mary Jane, entered his shared dorm room with Mia with a large knife and dragged her from her bunk to a balcony and began a frenzied knife attack on her as she fought for her life. While the attack was occurring, other people at the hostel saw what was happening and began approaching and yelling at Shmail. A night manager at the hostel, Grant Schultz, tried to stop the attack, but was immediately stabbed in the leg by Shmail. While Shmail's attention was distracted, Mia, bloodied, was able to run away to a bathroom and lock herself inside a stall. Another traveler, 30-year-old Tom Jackson, ran to help Mia. Tom entered the bathroom where Mia and another guest were hiding. The other guest called 000, which is the equivalent of 911 in Australia, while Tom gave Mia aid. Shmail, however, returned to the bathroom area and began viciously stabbing Tom, leaving him traumatically wounded. Once Shmail was done with Tom, he senselessly chased the hostel's 10-year-old German Shepherd around the common areas, stabbing it to death. When Home Hill police finally arrived, Shmail fought them viciously until they subdued him. Tragically, Mia would unfortunately pass at the scene just 30 minutes after the attack had begun, and Tom would pass just 6 days later at the hospital. Shmail, though he was detained by police, was never actually convicted of anything, as it was determined that he was mentally incompetent. He would go on to spend 5 years in Australian mental hospitals before he was deported back to France. Mia's mom has said that she forgives him for the attack. For our second story, we find ourselves back in Queensland, 16 years and 2 months exactly before the events in Home Hill, and just shy of 600 miles southeast in the town of Childers. It was the year 2000, a new millennium. The world had survived Y2K, and it was early winter in subtropical Childers. The Childers Palace Backpacker Hostel, located downtown, had been recently converted from a hotel into a hostel. On June 14th of that year, fruit picker Robert Paul Long, a hostel guest of 3 months, was evicted for being $200 behind in rent. This left him enraged, and he expressed his deep hatred of backpackers. Robert also threatened to do something evil to the hostel. During the week following his eviction, ATM records show that Robert had decided to stay in town, milling around. On June 23rd, just after midnight, Robert was seen in the hostel's backyard by 2 guests. He asked them to leave the back door unlocked so that he could sneak in later and beat up his former roommate. They promptly declined this absurd request, to which Robert said, "I still have a key." Minutes later, another guest recounted how he had woken up only to find Robert downstairs using a computer in the TV room near a burning trash can. This guest admonished him. Robert then took the trash bin outside, and the guest went back to sleep, only to be awakened by thick smoke and absolute chaos. Guests were banging on doors and screaming, trying to escape. The hostel's capacity was 101 occupants, and that night it had 88 guests. Starting at 12:30 a.m., 15 of those guests perished either in their sleep or trying to escape the fire. 10 additional guests had severe injuries from jumping to other buildings, smoke inhalation, and burns. Many of the victims that perished were trapped due to barred windows and a blocked exit door in one of the large guest rooms. In the aftermath of the fire, the police knew right away who started it, and for several days they hunted for their sole suspect, Robert Paul Long, eventually tracking him down in the town of Howard, Queensland. During his attempted arrest, he stabbed a police dog after being bitten and stabbed an officer in the jaw. In March 2002, Robert was found guilty of 1 count of arson and 2 counts of murder. His sentence? Life. Despite 15 fatalities in the fire, Robert was charged with only 2 counts of death to speed up the legal process and to keep the option open for additional charges in case of an acquittal. He has been denied appeals. Childers Palace was not charged for negligence, even though the building had no functional fire alarms or smoke detectors. Families of the victims would launch a class action lawsuit against the hostel because of this. In 2002, Jasonia Pilatus was commissioned to paint the famous painting, Taking a Break in the Field, which depicts the 15 backpackers that lost their lives. This is that picture.